Good evening. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us at the King's College Open House this evening. I'm seeing some attendees just joining the Zoom room now, so I might give it a second or two for a few more people to join us. But hello, everyone. Thank you very much for coming. My name is Yolana Wassersug. I'm the Assistant Registrar Student Recruitment here at the University of King's College. And this evening, we're going to talk about academic programs on our campus, student life on campus. We're going to answer as many of your questions as we possibly can in a 90-minute period. I'll just say up front, you can ask us questions during this webinar, or if you have questions that you don't feel like asking during this webinar, you can also email us at admissions@ukings.ca to get your questions answered. So to kick us off, let me just say a few words about where we are right now. Our campus is right in the heart of Halifax, and Halifax is also known by its Mi'kmaq name, Kjipuktuk. All of this region is Mi'kmaqi, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. And on the slide here, you can see students on our campus during our Summer Humanities for Young People program, raising the Mi'kmaq Grand Council flag, which flies in the flagpole right in the middle of our campus. Kjipuktuk, Halifax, is my hometown. It's a vibrant city. It's filled with students, and it's a beautiful place to live, work, and play. So if you, maybe some of you listening are from there, but if you're not, I really, truly hope that someday you'll be able to come visit. And that brings me to another important subject. If I'm talking about travel, I should say a few words about this pandemic situation that we're in. Let me just speak a little bit about COVID and how it's impacting what we're doing right now. Obviously, you can see me right now. I'm not wearing my mask. I'm here in the King's Library with some of my colleagues. And I just want to reassure you that when we came in to record this webinar, we all had our masks on. I didn't take mine off until I got to this podium. We had a safety plan going in. We all put in documents with our name and contact information in case we need to do contact tracing. This whole library area was cleaned and sanitized before we arrived, and it's going to be cleaned and sanitized again before students are back in this space. And there are 8 of us in the room right now, which is just under the gathering limitations that are in effect here in Nova Scotia as of today. Right now in Nova Scotia, there's fewer than 30 cases of COVID in this province. But in order to keep that up and reduce that number of cases and keep it really small, everyone needs to work together. So we're doing our part here at King's by just taking care of each other and following the guidelines. I think I just want to make you aware that that's something that's going on our campus. So let me tell you a little bit about what to expect from today in terms of a little agenda for this session. Starting off, I'll introduce you to your panelists. You'll hear from me today and also several other intelligent and informed people who are in the room, so we'll introduce you to them. Then I'll give you a little overview of the academic programs here at King's, and you'll be hearing from the director of our foundation year program and the director of our journalism school. And then I'm going to turn it over to our campus tour guide, Olivia, who will take you through a day in the life of a King's student. And then we're going to open it up for a Q&A. Now, I also want to say that at any point during this webinar, if you have a question, you can ask it. If you look at the bottom of your screen, there's a button that says Q&A, and you can type in questions there. I've got 2 colleagues on the line. My awesome colleague, Kaylee, who works with me in the King's recruitment team, and my wonderful colleague, Tara, who knows everything about admissions. So as I'm chatting, if you're typing in questions, Kaylee or Tara will be responding to those and writing answers back to you. Or they might wait and hold off on a question if they think it's a really juicy question. They might just wait until we get to the Q&A period and let one of our panelists here answer it live. So feel free to ask anything you want. We're going to try to answer as many questions as we can in about 90 minutes. So let me introduce you to your panelists today. I'm here with 2 members of the King's faculty, Neil and Tim, and I'm also here with one of our students, Olivia, and another student named Mia. So I'll let those people say hello and introduce themselves one by one.
Hello, I'm Neil Robertson. I'm the director of the foundation program, which I took just a few years ago as a student, and I am really welcome you and and we'll enjoy interacting with you as this webinar continues. Thanks.
And welcome everyone. I'm Tim Curry. I'm director of the journalism school. We have 3 programs in our school, but we're just talking about one of them here today, the 4-year Bachelor of Journalism Honors for students who take that program. And actually, the students in their final year have a chance to join with the students in our other 2 programs in a news workshop. So all 3 programs come together. We have a faculty of 10 and a staff of 3, and our job here is to help all of our students succeed as working journalists.
Hi, my name is Olivia Paul. I am a campus tour guide here at King's. You might know me if you joined one of our campus tour webinars. I'm currently a second-year student double majoring in political science and contemporary studies.
Hi, my name is Mia Dennison, and I work in a registrar's office as a peer academic advisor. So what that means is I can help you plan out your degree, I can help you figure out any academic policies or course requirements, and I can also help connect you with resources both inside and outside of academics. I'm also a student here at King's, and I'm pursuing an honors in political science and a minor in international development studies. So I really look forward to connecting with you all, and hopefully I'll get to help plan your degree.
So you were all obviously able to tell Mia looks and sounds a little different. She's not in the library with us here at King's, and that's because this year all of our classes are being taught online, and while Mia is studying online, she's actually living in Ontario. She still is learning full-time with us and also working part-time in the King's Registrar's Office, as she said. So we've got a couple panelists in the room and one in Ontario. So let me kick it off by talking about some of our academic programs here at King's College. This is a nice shot of our Arts and Administration building. It's one of the main buildings on our small campus. It's where you'll find the entire journalism department, our dining hall, lots of different classrooms and administrative offices. My office is right there in the Arts and Administration building. King's campus is very small and very close-knit, and we are just overall a smaller college. We have just under 1,000 students. So we are a really close-knit campus. If you're walking across the quad, you are bound to run into people you know. It's very easy to meet people and learn each other's names and become friends on such a small environment. Surrounding our campus on 3 sides is our larger neighbor, and that is called Dalhousie University. King's and Dalhousie University are partners. Our campuses are deeply connected with each other. So I'll tell you a little bit more about how that works. Dalhousie, as I said, surrounds King's on 3 sides. So you can see in this photo an aerial shot of our campuses side by side. As a King's student, you get to take advantage of having this really small and close-knit community where everyone knows each other and where it's super easy to make friends. But you also have access to a wide range of resources through Dalhousie. And our neighbors at Dal, they're pretty awesome. They are a U15 school. That means they're one of the top 15 research institutions in Canada. They have a lot of really interesting things going on. And King's and Dal together are completely intertwined with each other. We share many of our academic programs. We share our entire faculty of arts and social sciences. So when I say arts and social sciences, I mean programs like English, philosophy, political science, history, lots of languages like French and Russian, programs like theater and music. All of those are part of the Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences. And that would include the Fountain School of Performing Arts, which is where the theater and music departments live. So if you're a King's student and you're interested in any of those programs, you can take classes with us at King's in arts and humanities subjects or in journalism subjects, or you can just stroll next door to Dalhousie and take classes there as well. And when I say stroll next door, I really mean stroll next door. It's between a 30-second and 3-minute walk to get to Dal, depending on which building you're trying to go to. Another thing we share is our entire Faculty of Science. So if you are passionate about science programs, if you're interested in things like neurobiology, microbiology and immunology, psychology, physics, economics, mathematics, all sorts of subjects like that, and many, many more, those are shared between King's and Dal. So you can be a King's student and take courses in those subjects over at Dalhousie. We share many other resources. This would include the Health and Wellness Center, where students can go to get access to doctors, nurses, psychologists, psychiatrists, social workers, all sorts of important health and wellness resources. You have access to an international student center that has great resources if you're an international student, and also helps plan awesome study abroad opportunities for domestic students. There's a great fitness center called Dalplex. King's has its own gym on our campus, but you can also go to the Dalplex Fitness Center if you're really into getting a good workout. And all sorts of other resources, including a Black Student Advising Center, Indigenous Student Center, LGBTQ2 SIA plus collective. So lots of resources that are shared between both of our campuses. So what kind of degrees can you get if you're a King student? Well, you have 4 options for undergraduate degrees: a Bachelor of Arts, a Bachelor of Science, a Bachelor of Journalism honors program, which we're going to be talking about more today, and a Bachelor of Music. All 4 of those options are open to you if you're a King student. And we got this question in a previous open house, so I'll just say up front, you can also mix and match if you wanted to, let's say, do a double major where one of the disciplines you're interested in is from the sciences and the other is in the arts, like a double major in biology and political science, for example. You could totally do that degree as well. So there's lots of different options there. But one thing that most King students do is no matter what they're interested in, they start their degree in the same way. Most King students will start their degree with a unique first-year program that we offer, which is called Foundation Year Program, FYP, FIP is what we call it. So FIP is our first-year program. It's the jumping-off point that you can use for any of these degrees. So what that means for our students is you could spend your whole first year together, whether you're planning to do a science degree, a journalism degree, whether you love the tuba or you love history or whatever it is that you're passionate about, before everyone branches off and goes their different ways, pursuing their different interests, we like to start together with this strong first-year program. In the Foundation Year Program, you'll be reading quite a lot. We'll say more about that in a moment. You'll be thinking through really great and foundational ideas that are core to arts and humanities, but can help you build strong skills that can make you successful in any kind of degree. And when I say strong skills, I mean great reading, critical thinking skills, great writing skills, strong spoken communication skills. All of that kind of comes from the Foundation Year Program, and you can carry those skills with you into any of the degree types that we have. So let me dive a little bit more into Foundation Year, and I also will turn it over to Neil Robertson, the director of the program, to say more about it as well in just a few minutes. Students who are in the Foundation Year Program, like I said, everyone's studying together for their first year. Everyone's on the same schedule. They're reading the same books at the same time. They're discussing the same ideas together. They have assignments due on the same day. So people are really learning in community with each other. In Foundation Year Program, students will read great books, and then they'll attend a lecture in the morning all together. And in that lecture, they'll hear from a lecturer who's really an expert in the subject that they're talking about on that day. And in the afternoon, our students will break up into these smaller discussion groups. At King's, we call them tutorials. And in tutorial, you can really discuss, debate, hone your opinions, respectfully disagree with other people. I always say respectfully disagreeing with others is a really important skill to have when you live in a democracy. So just useful skills that you build through the process of being in tutorial together. That's really the core part of the program: reading, lecture, and tutorial. Those are the 3 main pieces. And you carry through that schedule with the same group of students for 1 full year. So let's talk about these readings a little bit more. FIP students read a wide range of different texts. And you can see a list of some of the texts that FIP students will read on this slide right here. So you can see works by philosophers like Plato and Socrates. You can see playwrights like Shakespeare. You can see people writing about gender like Simone de Beauvoir, people writing about race like Du Bois, people writing about property and government like Locke or Marx and Engels, a really wide range of different subjects. Some of the authors that you're seeing on this slide right now might seem very familiar to you. You maybe already encountered them many times in high school. I bet that's probably true with Shakespeare, for example. And there's probably also authors that you're seeing on this list that are much less familiar to you, and that's awesome. We would love to introduce you to these thinkers and these ideas. You can also see that these books are organized in chronological order. So section 1 of the program is called The Ancient World, and we start with some of the earliest stories that people ever wrote down. And then we move our way through the Middle Ages, the Renaissance, the Age of Reason or Enlightenment, the Era of Revolutions, and we end up in the 6th and final section of the program, which is called the Contemporary World. So together through the program, we're tracing this journey through great ideas and influential books and influential writers and thinkers that shaped the way our culture developed over time. Some of these ideas are beautiful and groundbreaking. You'll look at some artists and some scientists and some people that discovered amazing things, and they're going to blow your mind and make you incredibly proud to be part of humanity. And some of these ideas are troubling and disturbing. And as you read through the Foundation Year program, you'll have time to scrutinize and interrogate ideas about race, colonialism, war, famine, right? Those types of issues are going to come up often in this program and give us a chance as thinkers to kind of think through these problems together and think about how learning about the past can help us understand how we might want to shape our future. So that's the Foundation Year program in a nutshell: lecture, reading, and tutorial. So let's move on to talking about the way that this kind of fits into a degree. Typically, if you're doing a sort of standard first year at university and you're taking a full course load, you would be taking 5 classes each semester. So I always like to show this with the fingers on my hand. 5 classes per semester is a full course load. So normally you'd be doing different classes with different professors in different departments. They'd all have different deadlines for assignments and tests and exams. Foundation Year program is a completely different way of doing the first year of your degree because we're going to bundle together 4 of the courses you need in first year into one integrated mega course. And that's what FIP is all about. So 4 days out of the week, you're reading the same books as your classmates, attending lecture together, and then having these great discussions in your tutorial group. And you have one extra space in your schedule, day 5, to fit in something else. So let's say you're a journalism student with us at King's. You'd be doing FIP 4 days a week and taking an additional class called Foundations of Journalism. And that class is going to really set the groundwork for the next 3 years in the journalism program. Let's say you're a music student, FIP 4 days a week, and an elective class that you're choosing from the music department. That would make up your degree. If you're planning to get an arts degree, a Bachelor of Arts degree like I did, you would do FIP 4 days a week and choose another elective class in a subject that interests you. It really could be anything. It could be a science, it could be a language. When I did Foundation Year program, I did FIP and I also took first year Italian, just because I thought that would be fun and I wanted to get a language credit. And let's say you're a science student, you're going to do it in just a slightly different way. Instead of attending FIP 4 days a week, you just won't come to FIP on Thursdays. So you won't be responsible for any of the readings that get covered on Thursdays, and you won't be tested on that material at all. It'll be FIP 3 days a week and room in your schedule for 2 additional classes. That's really important for science students. It gives you a chance to get a science credit in first year and a math credit in first year. And those help you move smoothly into the second year of your degree. So the important takeaway here is you can do FIP as part of any of our degree types. It won't add an extra year to your degree. After Foundation Year program, you're well set up to move smoothly into the second year of your degree, whether it's arts, science, journalism, or music. And you can do those second, third, and fourth years through classes at King's, classes at Dow, or a combination of both. All right, let's move on. I just want to say a few words about the journalism school. We love bragging about our journalism school at King's. It's one of the top J schools in the country. It's a great program, and I'll let Tim Curry tell you more about it in just a few moments. But one of the things that's fantastic about this program is that it takes a really hands-on and practical approach. So when you're a student in our journalism school, you actually get out and do some real reporting. You interview people, you write stories. If you want to see the kind of work that our journalism students are doing and get a sense of it, I would really encourage you to check out a website that is the Signal, signalhfx.ca. If you go to signalhfx.ca, you can see stories that our journalism students are writing right now. You can see the podcasts they're working on. You can see the written articles they're working on all sorts of subjects, local news, global news, arts, culture, sports reporting, politics, all sorts of things. Our journalism students really go broad and learn a lot of different stuff. So go to the Signal to check it out if you want to see what that's like. Another thing I'd really love to highlight about this program is everyone graduates with real-world work experience. In the 4th year of the journalism program, you're required to do an internship. So you'll go out and work in a real newsroom for a real media outlet and graduate with some of that great work experience on your resume. So that's the journalism program in a nutshell, and Tim can say more about it. And I also encourage you to ask questions about that program if you like. If we just move on, just a few words about admissions and how that works. So one key date I'd love you all to know about is March 1st. March 1st is our scholarships deadline and our admissions deadline. If you apply by March 1st, you're guaranteed to be assessed for a general entrance scholarship. And I'm going to say more about scholarships in just the next slide, just one moment. So I definitely encourage you to apply by March 1st if you want to be considered for any of those scholarships. Right now, we're recording this webinar on November 21st. So right now we're in what's called the early admissions period. So if you're in grade 12 right now and you apply, let's say tomorrow, you're just in the first semester of your grade 12 year and you don't have a lot of final grades from grade 12 yet. So if you decided to apply tomorrow, you would actually send us the list of the final grades that you got in grade 11 and a list of the classes that you're taking this year in grade 12. And we would assess your application for admission based on those grade 11 marks. So that's what the early admission period is all about. We're going to be using your grade 11 marks to assess your grades. If you want to wait a little while, wait until after your first round of grade 12 exams are done, you could apply after January 31st in the regular admissions period and use your first semester marks from grade 12 to apply. So whether you apply now or later, the main thing we want to encourage you to do is consider applying before March 1st. And one other thing I'd like to say about that is normally there's a $65 application fee to apply, but you don't have to pay that application fee because you're at this open house. So after the open house ends, we will be sending you a follow-up email. And that email is really important. There's a waiver code in there. And you can use that waiver code to get a free application. So instead of paying $65, just type that waiver code into your application when you apply, and we'll let you apply for free. So I definitely encourage you to keep your eyes on your email inbox for that important letter. Just a few words about scholarships. 95% of students who come to King's get some form of financial aid from us. We have 2 main types of scholarships on our campus. So up at the top of the slide, we have our General Entrance Awards. General Entrance Awards are really easy and straightforward. You don't have to fill out any other paperwork. As long as you apply by March 1st, you are going to be automatically considered for general entrance scholarships. And if your grades fall in the range of an 85% average or higher, you're guaranteed to get a scholarship from us. Those scholarships are renewable, which means you can continue getting them each year during your degree, which is great. So general entrance scholarships, really easy. Apply by March 1st. Be considered for them automatically. The other kind of award we have are called our major awards, and you can see those listed on the lower part of the slide. The major awards have all sorts of different criteria. You can see a full list of all the details on our website about how the major awards work. So you'll notice that we've got one called the Donald R. Sobey Family Scholarship. So anyone who's a student in Canada or a Canadian citizen is eligible to apply for the Sobey Award. Whereas others, like the Colin Starnes Award, is only open to students who are in Nova Scotia, for example. Some of the awards have to do with specific student life or student activities. For example, there's a type of award where you'd have to be doing foundation year program and playing for one of our varsity teams to be considered. Those are the Deborah Dean Little and Robert Little academic scholarships for varsity athletes. And then we have certain awards for different kinds of students. For example, if you are an African Nova Scotian student, we would encourage you to apply for the Prince Scholarship. If you're a Black Canadian or Indigenous student, we would strongly encourage you to apply for the Carrie Best Scholarship. So you can read about all of the different eligibility criteria for different scholarships on our website. Scholarships are one piece of the financial aid puzzle, and the other thing you should be aware of is that we also have bursaries. So if you are looking to get more financial aid, especially if you're going to be getting a loan to help finance your education, we strongly encourage you to also apply for bursaries because we have financial aid to give out. The biggest mistake students make is just not applying. So apply, even if you think you might not be eligible, apply. So that's a little quick overview of academic programs and admissions. I can see that some of you are already typing questions into the Q&A, which is awesome, and I know that Kaylee and Tara are typing in answers, so thank you for your questions. And I just want to remind you again that if you have questions that you don't feel like typing in during this webinar, that's okay too. You can always email us at admissions@ukings.ca. And I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Robertson to say a little bit more about Foundation Year Program.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Yelena. The Foundation Year Program is an integrated, interdisciplinary way for you to do your first year of university. The pedagogical vision in the Foundation Year Program is that what we're aiming for is to make all of us, students and faculty, more aware of the world that we all live in. We do that in perhaps an unusual way by looking at texts from very different times and very different cultures. But in a way, I liken this to the model of travel, that when we go traveling, whether it's within our own communities or around the world, travel allows us not only to encounter others who are not ourselves, but also to know better who we are. And in a way, the Foundation Year Program is a kind of journey. It's a journey not in space, but a journey in time. And so we're going to go back to some of the deeper sources and roots of the assumptions and presuppositions that are at work in our world right now, and in doing that, become more aware of who we are. So that's the goal that the Foundation Year Program is working at. And where we begin is with the very first cities of human civilization, the cities of Mesopotamia and of ancient Egypt. And from there, we move forward through the centuries to our own contemporary world, to the modern world. And in a way, one way to describe the Foundation Program is watching that emergence of modernity, of the modern world, something that had its first appearance in European culture, in the Western tradition, but has now, of course, become a global question for all of us as we face both the great opportunities and realizations that are present in that modern world, but also some of the deep problems that have arisen precisely because of it. So as Yelena was indicating, the Foundation Program follows this trajectory of the Western tradition, but it's by no means a simple celebration. It's an opportunity to interrogate that development, and in doing so, to understand, you might say, what is both good and what is evil in that development. And even more interestingly, to my mind, and more fundamentally, the interconnection, interrelationship between those things that we want to affirm and those things which we often want to condemn. And it's also an opportunity to see the interaction between that development through this Western tradition and the various cultures that both feed into and are encountered through the interrelationship of the Western tradition and the non-Western world. And so we'll have opportunities to look, for instance, at the interaction between Islam and Christianity in the medieval period, or the encounters in the Americas. And so there are many ways in which we will be looking in a very thoughtful way at that whole development. And in doing so, I think coming to have a fuller sense of who we are. Now, the way we learn in the Foundation Year Program really has a kind of threefold aspect to it. And really the first and most important is that, as Yelena has already indicated, that we read books. And we read them together. And that's really important. These are books of a kind of infinite variety of interpretations, they allow a multitude of readings. And that means that while we may be reading books that have been read before in FIP as well as before in human history, we're reading them for the first time together, and in doing so, bringing our questions and our interpretations to them. So every year is a new year and a new way of thinking about these works and developing our thoughts in relationship to one another. So reading is at the heart of the Foundation Year program as we travel from the ancient to the medieval, through the Renaissance and Reformation, the Age of Reason, that's the 17th and 18th centuries, the era of revolutions, and finally to our contemporary world. But to help us have a kind of beginning point in understanding and interpreting those texts, we have lectures in the Foundation program, and the lecturers come to us not only from King's, but from Dalhousie, and really almost from anywhere. And they are chosen as people who both have an expertise in the topic being discussed, in the reading that's being considered, and also a love for communicating their understanding. And this is not the final word on any of these texts, it's really just the first word, which allows us then in tutorials, the tutorials are about 10 to 15 students, allows us in tutorials to have that opportunity for the students to engage with and discuss the material that they've had a chance to read. And then from the tutorial, the students have the opportunity to communicate their thoughts and their understandings of these works, their interpretations, in essays. And so every 2 weeks, there is an essay due in the Foundation Year program. So I do like to say that this is a program for those who love to read and love to write. And it is an adventure of deepening our capacity to do both of those things in concert with one another. And let me just say a little bit about what the Foundation Year program might mean in terms of your overall trajectory going forward, both in university and beyond. In university, it is often stated that Foundation Year program students stand out precisely because of their capacity to make clear arguments, to gather evidence together, to understand other perspectives and bring them into play in the various assignments, essays, and so on that they're asked to produce. But then beyond that, I view the Foundation Year program, in a way it's a preparation for nothing in particular, which means it's a preparation for everything. And it's a kind of multiplier, is the way I think of it. Well, here, let me give you just a personal example. My brother did the Foundation Year program and then went on to do a degree in graphic design, online graphic design, and it's that online graphic design capacity that gave him his first job. But he will say it was what he learned in the Foundation Year program that has allowed him to excel in his profession. Or let me give you another personal example. There's my roommate when I did the Foundation Year program, Dr. Ian Falkins, who's now a professor of physics, atmospheric physics at Dalhousie University, made use of his Foundation Year program, understanding precisely to make him a more effective scientist. And so the Foundation Year program in that sense is a basis for increasing not only your well-being as a human being, but I think for enhancing any career as you go forward. And if you just sort of have a question about that, I recommend that you take a look at ukingscommunity.ca, a website that has many of our alumni featured, and it'll show you the rich variety of opportunities that the Foundation Year program has opened our alumni to. Thanks.
And we'll just ask Tim Curry now to speak a little bit about the journalism school.
Yeah, thanks, Yolana. As Yolana mentioned earlier, the one thing to know about our school is that we're on the practical side of journalism programs in Canada. So we focus on the doing of journalism, not the studying of journalism. So we don't have a strong media studies aspect. Our students don't look at necessarily what journalists do in depth. They do journalism. So that means on a typical day, our students go out and they find out what's true and new and interesting, and they share that with other people. So in that way, there's a fundamental difference between journalism and FIP in that we don't teach our students a body of knowledge and test them on it. We teach them a method of inquiry. So in FIP, those folks in those classes are typically writing papers of 1,200 or 1,500 words. In journalism, it's a fair bit shorter than that. Our students are putting together 90-second audio and video reports or 800-word news assignments. But these are concise pieces of storytelling. They're detailed and they're interesting as well. So the other thing that is different is that we are here in our beautiful King's Library, but our journalism students actually don't spend a lot of time here. Our students don't spend a lot of time in books. As we like to say, the library for journalism students is the city of Halifax. So our students spend their time going to news conferences, going to festivals, going to sporting events, cultural events, and they are reporting on those. So we have a very strong reputation, we believe, in our journalism school of having graduates who can step into the workplace and perform at a high level. And the way they do that is through the fact that we spend a lot of time working one-on-one with our students. So what we call it is more of an editor-reporter relationship than a professor-student relationship. And because much of what we produce is for the public, we spend a lot of time working through multiple drafts. So we'll be asking our students questions, how can we get more information in this story? How can we make this headline clearer? And we spend a lot of time working one-on-one to make sure that what we put on our website and on iTunes and on YouTube is the best it can possibly be. So what does our curriculum look like? As Yolana mentioned, our students take Foundations of Journalism in their first year, and this course has two parts to it. There's a morning part that looks at the big issues in journalism. So that lecture typically looks at issues of independence and impartiality and fairness. We look at what do journalists do, what is their role in society, and how does that role support democracy. And then there's the afternoon part of Foundations of Journalism, where we dive into the practice of writing. So we typically learn how to interview and how to research and gather information to the goal of writing a feature assignment, a large one, at the end of first year. In second year, that's where we delve into news reporting. With our Introduction to Reporting course, we're typically sending students to news conferences. They would typically meet the mayor and the communications staff and understand what their relationship is with other people in government and other institutions. Students take a visual storytelling course where they are learning how to tell stories in images and video. And they're taking an intermediate reporting course where they start reporting for the first time and make it public. In third year, there is a course in audio and video. That's where they delve into that in depth and learn about interviewing. There's a course in ethics where we look at questions of how should we use graphic images, how can we best represent the diversity of our communities in our reporting. There's an element of media law in that, and there's also a third course where we look at advanced research methods, including data and working with public records. But where it gets really interesting is in fourth year, where our students spend most of their time in 6-week workshops. And they have to take the news workshop, and we run that as a working newsroom as we do our other workshops, but they can also take audio, video, or long-form narrative writing. They make that choice twice, and then they have the opportunity to dive even deeper into audio documentary, video documentary, investigative journalism, or long-form features. So our students graduate with a toolbox of skills that they can take into the workplace. They'll have critical thinking skills, they'll certainly have writing skills, they'll have video production skills, they'll have social media skills, and even though I would say maybe only 40 or 50% of our graduates ever actually go and work in a traditional newsroom, such as the CBC or Globe and Mail, the Toronto Star. Our students are prepared for a wide variety of careers that might be as a researcher, as a social media manager, in communications, or public relations. So our students graduate with an immense amount of skills that are valuable to a wide range of employers.
Excellent. So in just a moment, I'm going to turn things over to Olivia, our campus tour guide, to take you on a little kind of tour through the day in the life of a King student. Just before I do that, I just wanted to mention I'm seeing so many good questions pop up in our Q&A, which is awesome. Thank you for all your questions. I know Tara and Kaylee are typing furiously to get answers to all of them. And if you've noticed that you may have asked a question where you're going to see a little notification saying that the question will be answered live, and that just means we'll talk about that during the Q&A session after Olivia has a chance to talk a little bit about what it's like to be a student at King's. Over to you, Olivia.
Thank you, Yolana. So while I really wish that I could show you King's in person, and I'm sorry that we can't meet face to face, I'm excited to show you what King's is like. Even though things are looking a little bit different this year, I hope that I can still encapsulate the spirit of King's. Before I begin, I guess I'll just say a few words on why I decided to come to King's. So when I was in grade 11, I had virtually no idea where I wanted to go to school, which is a position that some of you might be in, and that is totally understandable. It's a fairly big decision, so you want to make sure that you have all of the right information. I talked to a guidance counselor at my high school, and she recommended King's for me because she knew that I had a passion in history and language arts, and her son had done the journalism program at King's. So I was very lucky. I did some research, and I decided not only that I wanted to go to King's, but it was the only school that I wanted to apply to. So that was a bold choice on my end, but luckily it worked out because I'm here. And I'm very excited that some of you might be feeling that way about King's, and we hope that you'll find the right university for you. The purpose of doing this is just to sort of narrow it down so that you can make that decision too. So I'll just tell you a little bit about student life at King's, and I'll start off with the beginning of my day, which last year when I was doing foundation year and I was living in residence, I lived in this building called Alexandra Hall, which is the largest residence on the King's campus. It houses about 200 students during normal years, and it was built in the 1960s as an all-female residence, but subsequently it has become co-ed, and so except for the top 2 floors. I was on the 4th floor, which was one of the all-female floors, and I had a single room because I'm just somebody who likes to have a little bit more space, so that's definitely an option if you're like that as well. That's a picture of my room on the right, one of the few times that it was clean. Because I didn't have a roommate, I didn't really have anyone to discipline me to clean my room, so that was a bit of a problem, but I'm glad I have a picture of it looking relatively clean. And then we also have pictures of the floor plans of what those rooms look like. So in Alex Hall, you can have a single or a double room, and this is just your traditional university dormitory style where you'll have your bed on one side of the room, your roommate has their bed on the other side, and you both have a desk and a bureau. I'd say that they're more spacious than other universities just because of the size of our institution. And then we have a different residence style, which is more unique to King's. It's called the bays, and there are 5 bays on the King's campus, so they're the most numerous residences. It's something a little bit different. The structure of it is called a conjoined single, which means that you have your room and your roommate has their room, and it's separated by a door. So it's the best of both worlds because you get to have your own space while also having the quintessential university experience of having a roommate. Here are some pictures of what those rooms actually look like. So the 2 rooms pictured on the sides are Alexandra Hall rooms. As you can see, you both will be sharing your beds in the same room. And then the 2 pictures in the center are bay rooms. It kind of gives you some flexibility because while you have 2 separate rooms, I've heard of people pushing both of their beds into one room and then using the other one as a functional living room. So before you come to King's, if you're going to be living in residence, you'll have an opportunity to indicate whether you want a single or a double room and whether you want to live in the Alexandra Hall dormitory or one of the bays. And we try to match you up with somebody who has a similar lifestyle, personality, habits as you. We generally have a lot of success in that area, and I know many people who still live with their first-year roommates off campus. So getting on with my day, I'm definitely someone who likes to sleep in the morning, which is good because my classes are a 60-second walk away. And before I would go to my foundation year lecture, I could stop by the Galley, which is one of 2 student-run businesses on the King's campus. It has pastries, croissants, coffees, the best grilled cheese that you'll ever have. You need to come and see it for yourself, I think. And it's open from 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. on weekdays, so great time just to go before lecture and grab something to eat there. As I mentioned, it's completely student operated. All the prices are set by students, and you know that students are getting fairly compensated for their work. It's also a terrific employment opportunity if you're interested in getting a job on campus. So after stopping by the Galley, I would go to my FIP lecture, which started at 9:30 a.m. and went till 11:30 a.m. So as already touched upon, FIP encompasses a wide range of interdisciplinary topics, and you'll be listening to a lecture in this room, which is called Alumni Hall. It's the largest lecture hall on the King's campus, about the material that you would have just read the day before or over the weekend. So I always found it very helpful to break down some of the denser philosophical texts that we would be reading in FIP, and it was just a great way to introduce the text so that we would have a basis to inform our opinions and our questions, our critiques of the text. As mentioned, it mostly focuses on the Western canon of thought, but through the lenses of criticism and empathy for other cultures that existed concurrently with the Western civilizations that we look at. That you'll hear some lectures from fantastic Neil Robertson, as well as our other foundation year staff, and the lectures were always very informative and engaging. You'll have a 10-minute break in between the 2 hours, and then you'll break out into your smaller tutorial groups, which are 50 minutes long, and they start either right after lecture at 11:35, or at 12:30, or at 1:30. So I had my tutorial at 12:30 p.m., which meant that I had a little bit of time after my lecture. And since I was usually feeling a bit hungry, I would go down to the dining hall on campus, should be a picture of it, which is called Prince Hall. So if you are a student in residence, then you need to purchase a meal plan. And there's 4 iterations of what you can get. You can get a 7-day unlimited, a 5-day unlimited, 14 meals a week, or 10 meals a week, whatever option works best for you. There's hot options available for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. There's classic comfort foods like pasta, burgers, pizza. There's always vegetarian options on offer, of course, as well as a fully stocked salad bar. But if none of the hot options suit your fancy, there's an adjoining room called My Pantry, which is stocked with breads, cereals, Belgian waffle makers, stove tops, and it gives you some more creativity. Like one time my friends and I made a pizza waffle in there, which was actually pretty good, and I think we might have just discovered something with that. But Prince Hall is definitely somewhere that you'll be spending a lot of time, and you'll get to know the staff very well too. They're all very lovely. In the morning, Gary, our chef, always knows your egg order. And they'll also do something for Halloween and Christmas, all of the various holidays. There was a maritime dinner which featured local highlights from the region, and it's definitely, you'll never go hungry at Prince Hall. That's all I can say. Okay, so after getting something to eat, I would go to my tutorial. So tutorials are composed of smaller units of you and your FIP classmates, around 12 students, and they are led by a tutor. You'll have a main tutor, and then you'll have 3 or 4 other tutors whom you will circulate between throughout the year. So I really valued tutorial, and I think it was one of the most transformative experiences in my academic career because it was basically just an open forum for discussion where you could bring your insights about the text and share them with a group of your peers and your tutor, and you will learn so much. It was definitely a great opportunity for personal growth and developing communication skills as well, which I really needed at that point in my life. And so your tutors are basically just the facilitators of the discussion. They want to learn from you as much as you're learning from them. And to feel like as a lowly 18-year-old first year that my opinions were being valued, that I had merit, was really consequential to my development as a student. And that the fact that our tutors were our partners in learning, as well as just a close contact that you can have to help you throughout your academic career. Many people become close with their tutors and their tutorial groups. My main tutor, Chris Snook, is definitely the nicest man I've ever met, and anyone who's met him says likewise. He actually had us over to his house for dinner at the beginning of the year because King's is such a tight-knit community that's something that is in keeping with the spirit here. He always has his main tutorials over for a nice dinner, and it was just really a valuable experience all around. Okay, so after tutorial, you'll have the rest of your afternoon free unless you are taking an elective, and you might want to get a head start on the next day's reading. So you could go to the King's Library, where I am right now, and it's this gorgeous 2-story building that's built in a Neo-Georgian style for our bicentennial in 1989, but it's meant to mimic a Roman amphitheater. So if you go inside, there's all these busts of Roman and Greek emperors. There are 80,000 volumes, so it's a great place to read and browse as well as study, including 20,000 rare volumes, and there's art all around. It is a beautiful facility. It's also where our current matricula is kept. So when you come to King's in first year, there's a ceremony in the fall called matriculation, which is where you will put on a formal gown, you'll recite an oath in Latin, and you will sign this document, and you will really question, where the heck am I going to school? What is this ritual? It's very surreal, but it's also a very neat metaphor for King's because King's is steeped in tradition and history, but it's also living and evolving. And the matricula has been with our university since we landed in Nova Scotia in the 1780s. It is a living document of everyone who has walked through our halls. So you are being a part of that dynamic history by signing the matricula. So if you are a very disciplined person and you can manage to have a workout after spending all day studying, then there are 2 options for where you can go. The first is the King's Gym, which is located on the King's campus, and it's well known to our varsity athletes. We have 5 varsity sports here at King's, and they are soccer, basketball, badminton, rugby, and volleyball. So there's a basketball court, a badminton court, there's a yoga studio, the King's Dance Collective practices in the dance studio, as well as pay-as-you-can yoga classes and a karate school that's open to the general public. So it's definitely an ideal option if you prefer a less crowded approach to working out. You can use the weight room and the cardio room, and chances are you aren't going to run into many people, if anyone, if you are working out in the King's Gym. I will also give a little shout out to Neil Hooper, who is our athletics director at King's. He is a great resource if you are interested in getting involved in varsity athletics, or if you're just looking for something really specific that you want to get involved with. Maybe you did it in high school and you want to know if we have an option for it in Halifax or at King's. He is definitely someone that we can get you in contact with. He won Best Athletics Director a few years back, so he is a lovely man, and he'll know your name regardless of whether you're involved in any sports. And then alternatively, you can head over to the Dalhousie Gym or the Dalplex to have a workout there. And this is a $30 million facility, so it's very extensive. It has a massive weight and cardio room, Olympic-sized swimming pools, rock climbing walls, a sauna. It was definitely somewhere I like to go because being able to have access to somewhere like that for free was pretty sweet. And again, being a King student, you do get the best of both worlds, being able to choose between both universities and whatever style works best for you. So many of our students get involved with societies outside of their normal timetables at King's. You can join the Theatrical Society, get involved with music, whatever. We have over 40 ratified societies at King's, so there's definitely lots of different things depending on what your interests are. So in first year, I joined the U King's Literary Society, which was formerly known as the Halliburton Society, but we did some investigations into that name and we uncovered its connection to colonization and slavery. It's our university's responsibility to acknowledge our past and adapt where necessary, so the name has been changed in lieu of that. But it is the oldest literary society in Canada, which many things at King's are the oldest thing in Canada. And every week we would have a theme, and people would bring a reading that was meaningful to them and share it with the other members of the community. So I thought it was a great way to interact with people from upper years to learn more about other programs and degree types at King's, because sometimes in FIP you'll be sort of in an insular environment with only people your own age. So it was really valuable for that. And then you can just come and have wine and cheese. You don't have to bring a reading if you don't want to. You can also just listen to what other people bring. And then sometimes there will be live poets or professors will come in and do a reading, which is really nice. So at that point, my day would be winding down, and sometimes I would go to the wardroom, or endearingly, the wardy, which is the second student-run business on the King's campus. It shares a space with the galley, and it's very versatile because during the day, it's a place that you can come and do homework or meet with a professor or play pool, but then at night, it transforms into a hub of nightlife, and it's technically a bar, but I would refer to it more as a King's Lounge or a clubhouse that's only really for King's students. It has something very unique in Nova Scotia, which is called a wet-dry license. So that means that while the wardy serves alcohol, you can be in that space if you're under 19, which is the legal drinking age in Canada, or if you're not interested in drinking, that is totally okay. The wardy is an inclusive space, and we want everyone to feel welcome. So there's soft drinks, there's kombucha on tap, and if you're underage, you'll just get a wristband indicating that you won't be drinking. And you can come out and listen to live music. There's drag performances, karaoke, something for everyone. If you have an instrument that you play, you're welcome to bring that, as well as there's a piano available for anyone to use. There's also a fun tradition called FIP Mondays, which takes place every 2 weeks on Mondays after you have your FIP paper due. It's just a great way to shake off the stress of writing an essay all weekend and studying super hard as you do during the foundation year program. So you'll have a little dance party celebration with your friends. And since you don't have classes on Tuesday, you can party on a Monday night, something kind of fun about FIP. Except if you're in journalism. Okay, so at that point, yeah, my day would probably be over and I would be heading back to my residence room. So this is a picture that I took at the stairwell of Alex Hall overlooking the chapel. And I really valued my experience at FIP and in living in residence, and I really hope that all of you will have as much fondness for your university experience as I have for King's. So thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Olivia, for that. In just a minute, we're going to open up this Q&A, and we can keep answering your questions until it's time to log off. But just a few kind of next steps that I want to tell you about before we get into the questions and answers part. So the first thing is, of course, keep asking us your questions during this Q&A. But if for some reason we don't have time to answer your question, or maybe you have a question that's something that's super specific to the classes you're taking in high school or your learning needs or anything like that, you can also email us your question at admissions@ukings.ca and we'll get back to you very soon. Another next step to keep in mind, if you're in grade 12, you can apply. You can apply tomorrow if you want. And before you do, I just would encourage you to keep your eye on your inbox, because after this open house is over, we are going to send you a follow-up email to thank you for coming. And one of the important things in that follow-up email will be a waiver code that you can use to apply for free. So I think I mentioned this earlier. It normally costs $65 to apply. You came to the open house, we would love for you to apply for free, so just keep your eye on your inbox for that. There's a couple other useful things that are going to be in that follow-up email. One of those things is a link to a survey if you want to give us feedback about this session and if you thought it was good, and if there's other things you'd like us to do in the future, or if you have ideas for how we could improve it, please fill out the survey, and we'll also send you a little gift if you do. And another really cool thing that's in that follow-up email is a link to a video recording of a mini lecture that Neil and Tim put together to give you a sense of what it feels like to be a student on our campus right now. During the Q&A session, we're going to talk a little bit more about how COVID has impacted our campus, because I see some questions about that in the Q&A. So I want to be clear, our students this year are learning online, and many of their lectures have been pre-recorded. So if you want to get a sense of what that looks like, you can click the link that's going to be in that follow-up email and watch one of our recorded lectures. You can also follow us on our social channels, and you can come to any of our future upcoming events. We have all sorts of webinars that we're going to do. You're on our mailing list now. We'll tell you about them, don't worry. But we're going to do webinars, all about science programs, deep dive into journalism programs. We're going to talk more about foundation year program. We'll do webinars all about scholarships, all about bursaries and financial aid, and many, many other topics. So whatever it is that you're looking for information on, I promise we'll be doing events about it in the future. And the next event that we have coming up really soon, next weekend in fact, is a really cool thing. It's an essay writing workshop that we're doing. So we have a tutor from our foundation year program, Michelle Wilband, and we have our writing coach, Mark Burke, the FIP writing coach, and they are going to do a workshop to kind of give you some tips and skills and useful tools that can help you write a better academic paper. Whether you come to King's or whether you go to a different university, writing a good academic essay is a very useful skill to have. So that workshop is designed to teach you some useful skills. And if you come to that workshop and at the end of it you're feeling pretty proud and accomplished of your writing skills, we would strongly encourage you to submit an original essay to our upcoming essay contest. The deadline for that is December 14th. You can read more about it on our website. If you are the winning essay, you'll get a gift certificate to our King's Campus bookstore, the co-op bookstore, which is worth the value of all the books you need for foundation year program. So it's a pretty sweet prize. We strongly encourage you to apply. So at this point, I just want to open it up for questions, and I want to remind you, I can answer questions. Neil and Tim are here and they can answer questions. Olivia is here, and Mia, who is our peer advisor, is also online. So especially if you have questions about how to structure a degree, academic advising type things, we'll throw it over to Mia for those. So let's start with this question here. Okay, we have a question here that says, what is the diversity of students in FIP and how many students are out of province? I think I might take a stab at this one, and I might also, so the diversity of students in FIP and how many are out of province. So the second part of that is pretty easy to answer. About 60% of students at King's come from Nova Scotia, and the rest of them come from out of province or out of country. The kind of next most common province for a student to come from is Ontario, like Olivia, she came from Ontario. So yeah, lots of Nova Scotians on our campus, quite a few Ontarians on our campus, and plenty of other students from across Canada, and a smaller population of international students as well. So there's that kind of diversity on our campus. Diversity can mean a lot of different things. So I'll just run through a few definitions of that, and I'm just going to say up front, I don't have hard statistics in front of me right now, but I will say more students on our campus are women or non-binary than men, at a ratio of about 60-40 or 70-30, depending on the year. So there's more female students on our campus, just in general. Another thing to keep in mind is a very meaningful sized population of students on our campus are LGBTQ students. I don't have hard statistics on that, but there's a very active Pride Society on our campus and a lot of students that would sort of self-identify as belonging to the LGBTQ community. In terms of other kinds of diversity on our campus, I just want to be really upfront about this. Historically, King's has had a lot more white students than students who aren't white. And that's not something that we at King's feel completely comfortable about or happy about. In fact, we recognize very strongly that diversity is a strength. And so especially in the past few years, a lot has happened on this campus to try to encourage more diversity across our student body, and not just among our students, but also about our faculty and staff. So we've had more hiring of professors, for instance, who aren't white, which is really important. And we've also had a new position on our campus created for an equity officer. We've also had way more new scholarships, like the Prince Scholarship and the Carrie Best, which I mentioned before. There's a new scholarship that's so new it wasn't even on my slide deck, which is the Sylvia Hamilton Scholarship. And a lot of those scholarships are designed to encourage more diversity on our campus. So I just want to be pretty clear about that. We're a campus that is working to become more and more diverse each year, and that is work that happens at every level of our campus. We have students who are advocating for more diversity, more scholarships, and more bursaries, and really pushing the university administration to do more and work harder. And it also comes from the president level down, because the president of our campus is very, very passionate about making the college more diverse. So that says a little bit about the diversity of FIP. I also think maybe Neil would be a good person to speak to the types of diversity in the actual books that are being read in the foundation year program. Could I throw that to you, Neil?
Sure. So one of the things we have been developing, as Yolanda says, the question of diversity is a question that is at work at every level of the campus. And in the foundation year program, there's been an effort not only of two kinds of diversity, I would say. One is diversity within the Western tradition, so looking at texts and authors coming from various peoples that have not normally been part of the canon. I'm not usually comfortable with that word particularly, but as well looking at texts from other cultures, particularly these moments of encounter. So this week in the foundation year program, we'll be having a lecture on the Americas, the encounter particularly in the Mexican, in what became Mexico, and we are looking at texts written not only by those coming from Europe, but equally from the indigenous peoples themselves. So that's very much the way we have been increasing the sense of having many voices at work in the foundation program, and drawing on lecturers who come from a rich variety of backgrounds. One of the advantages that the foundation program has is there are so many different lecturers that gives us an opportunity. So, for instance, we had a lecture on a Islamic text that was presented to us by a academic, a faculty member at Columbia University who was able to speak to it directly from the culture that produced it. So that's the kinds of things we've been doing in the foundation program.
Awesome. Thank you, Neil. So a lot of different questions that are in my Q&A have to do with COVID in general. So I'm going to try to address a few of those different things. I see that one person has asked if the King's experience related to COVID is sort of comparable to any other Canadian university. There's another student who's asked if the galley and the wardroom and the library are closed on campus right now. Another student has asked, has it been decided yet if we're going to be online next year? So that's a lot of questions that are COVID related. So I think maybe we should just talk about that subject for a little while. So for this academic year, 2020-2021, the year that our students are learning right now, our classes are taught online. All of them, our undergraduate programs, our graduate programs like our Master of Journalism and Master of Fine Arts program are all being taught online. And we're really, really proud of how our online learning has worked. You probably know this if you were looking at universities recently. A lot of universities across Canada had to make decisions very quickly about moving their courses online. And that was a tough decision for some universities and colleges, especially if they didn't previously have much experience with online teaching. And I think King's has a lot to be proud of here. We're a small school that was able to make decisions and act really nimbly and really quickly in order to get online teaching ready to go. We have the benefit of having an amazing journalism school on our campus, which means we have people like Mark and Paul, who are in this room right now, who are audio technicians and video technicians, and could help make sure that our online classes looked good and sounded good and were accessible. We had members of our administration and teaching staff that learned how to use lots of new technology very quickly. And we also adapted the way that we teach some of our classes. So in foundation year program, for example, our tutorial sizes used to be around 12 to 15 students, and we decided that in order to make them a better experience for students online, we should make the class sizes smaller, so that there's more time for discussion, more opportunity for bouncing ideas off each other, and kind of more flexibility. And so our tutorial sizes went down to about 8 to 10 students, which is great. So because of the fact that our classes are small, and because of the fact that we were able to act really nimbly, the online learning experience here has been really positive for our students so far. And there's a lot of articles on the King's website right now with students and faculty talking about what that transition was like for them. So I don't think it's, obviously I want to brag about King's, but I don't think it's fair to say that our online learning experience has been exactly comparable to other universities. In fact, I think we're doing it a little better than most, which I think is a really good and exciting thing. In terms of student life, the library is open, the library I'm standing in right now. When it's open to students, students can book ahead to have a private study space, or if there's room, they can still take kind of walk-ins. The galley is open and it's doing takeout, and they've got a website where you can order online and get treats. I think they were doing delivery boxes of fresh produce that students could pick up and all sorts of interesting creative things. The wardroom is reworking their safety plan right now to make sure that it's up to date, but it's looking like that also might be able to open up in some careful ways. The gym is open so our varsity athletes can practice. So there's lots of things that are different right now, but they're definitely still happening. And in terms of residence life, we don't have any students this year who have roommates. So the double rooms on campus have one person living in them. They're single rooms, and there are some rooms on campus that are completely unoccupied. No student at King's has gotten sick, which is great. But if somebody did, there would be a clean and safe place for them to isolate. And if that happened, we would deliver them meals to their room and make sure that they're safe and check in on them and all of that stuff. So a lot of things have changed, but that's a little lay of the land for how it is right now. The next question you're probably thinking is, what will it be like next year? And my honest answer to that question is, I don't exactly know yet. We work really closely with public health authorities here in Nova Scotia. Our chief public health medical officer is Dr. Strang. And Dr. Strang works very closely with the presidents of all the universities in the region and people like our Dean of Residence, Katie Merwin, to come up with plans and guidelines that are going to work for our students. But keeping everyone safe and healthy is priority number one. So I don't know exactly how it'll look next year yet, but trust me, students will be the first to know. That was sort of my take on it, and I wonder if maybe Neil or Tim have things to add about what their experience has been with adapting to the online learning environment, what's working, you know, those types of things.
Yeah, I just want to confirm what Yelena has been saying. The foundation year program, we have, in my experience, it's in a way been seamless. The lectures are pre-recorded but done at a very high level and have been successful for the students. And the tutorials, we shrunk them down to about 10 students each, and they're working as well as any tutorials that I can remember. And let me say, this is not just me. Just the day before yesterday, I was forwarded an assessment from a student, completely unsolicited, and this is what she said. Despite these unusual times we're living in, my experience in the foundation program has been incredibly positive thus far. I'm soaking up more knowledge than I ever have before, and I felt a true sense of support from the King's community, the faculty, my peers. I've made so many connections in this brief period of time that I never would have imagined heading into my first day. King's has provided so many supplementary efforts to make online learning that much better. Between virtual matriculation, night FIP, Write and Read Now, those are things that we have especially to support students, and a virtual scholarship banquet. My experience of online learning has had no moments of stagnancy thus far. So that, to my mind, says it all.
One of the other questions that we got that was related to this was especially about the journalism side and all the hands-on learning that we were talking about. So Tim, would you like to speak to how that's been working for our students?
Sure. So as in FIP, we reduced the size of our first-year tutorial groups down to a maximum of 10 or 11 students in order to compact the learning experience online. One of the things we've done for our senior students is we shipped each of our senior students a kit of gear that included a wireless microphone, a tripod, and a mount for their cell phone camera. Because this is the type of equipment that we normally have in the journalism school that we would lend out to our students as part of their reporting assignments, but because our students are stretched out across the country in their own communities, we needed to make sure that they had the gear in order to report properly. So our students have had that. It's been a different year, but I think if you take a look at the signal, you'll see that our students are producing the same text-based news, images for our news section. And if you go to iTunes, you'll see our podcasts, our current affairs programming is, in some ways a little bit less polished than it might be if all of our students were in our audio studio in person, but they're doing great work.
Great. Thank you. Another question that we've been getting kind of quite a bit of different versions of this question in our Q&A feed is just about general admissions requirements. And I didn't really talk about this when we were on the admissions slide, so let me just speak a little bit to kind of general admission requirements. So if you apply during this time of year, we're in the early admissions period, we're going to look at your final marks from grade 11. If you wait a little later in the year, after your first semester grade 12 exams are done, we'll be looking at your first semester final grade 12 marks. In general, what we want to see on your high school transcript are 5 university level classes. So when I say university level, this might mean different things depending on what province or state or country you're in. So here in Nova Scotia, what I mean is a grade 12 academic course. Or if you are a student in Ontario right now, I mean a course where the course name, the course code has a 4U or 4M at the end of that code. And if you want advice about what types of classes you should be taking in high school in order to be prepared for university, you can email us at admissions@ukings.ca and tell us what courses you're taking, and we can talk about that. But generally speaking, we want to see 5 academic level, grade 12 level courses or grade 11 final courses. One of them absolutely has to be English. So we're going to be looking at your grade in your English class. If you apply to arts, journalism, or music, we're going to look at your grade in English and the next 4 strongest marks that you have. So that's 5 classes in total that we average together to get a sense of your admissions average. And if you're trying to get into FIP, we want to see at least a 75. If you're trying to get into journalism, we want to see at least an 80. Meeting minimum admission requirements does not guarantee admission to a program, but those are the minimums that you should be aware of. If you're applying for science, we're going to look at your grade in English and math. It has to be an appropriate level of math, so pre-cal or calculus would be appropriate. English, math, and your next 3 strongest grades, and we average those together. Some programs have additional supplemental admission requirements. So let's say you're planning to do a degree in music or in the acting stream of the theater department. You're probably going to be asked to audition for one of those programs. So that's a supplemental part of your application. And a really important one, if you're applying for journalism, is we're going to ask you to send in a piece of writing. We call it an autobiographical sketch. Maybe I'll see if Tim wants to say a little bit about what kinds of things we're looking for in that autobiographical sketch if you're an applicant to the J School.
Absolutely. So, three things. We certainly want to know about you. We want to know about who you are and what your interests are, and specifically why you're interested in journalism. We're interested in can you write? Can you construct sentences grammatically and put together a coherent and engaging piece of storytelling about yourself? And lastly is just, can you spin a story? Can you pick out parts of your life that are interesting and be able to put it together in some way that interests our admissions committee? So we look at this, and certainly it's all part of the application package, your marks, but we certainly want to know a bit about you and a bit about your storytelling abilities.
Great. So I am in this unusual position right now where it seems like we've gotten through all the questions in the Q&A feed, which is really blowing my mind because we've got about 10 minutes left, and I'm willing to bet that there's a few other people out there who have questions. I will just hang tight for a little while just in case anyone's typing one in right now. And while we're waiting, I haven't had a chance to bring this up yet. It hasn't come up, but I just want to brag about something cool that happens with the Foundation Year program, because we didn't get a chance to talk about it. So one thing that we get a lot of questions about, I meet a lot of students that are hoping to go to law school someday. That might not be you. Maybe you're not interested in law school, but if you are, I just want you to know, doing Foundation Year program is great preparation for a lot of different kinds of careers, and it's often a very strong preparation for a career in law. Over in Alberta, the University of Calgary's law school noticed that students who have done FIP are very well prepared for law school, and so they actually worked up a partnership with us. It's only a few years old. It's a very new partnership. But if you do Foundation Year program and complete a degree at King's, you can be provisionally pre-admitted to that law school, which I think is a really cool thing. You still have to write the LSAT, but they will consider you to be a student that's met all of the other academic requirements for heading off to law school. So that's a really cool opportunity for Foundation Year program students if that's a career path you want to go on. Oh boy, okay, a few other questions have popped up. Oh my goodness. Okay, how many students are usually in the Foundation Year program? About 190, 200, depending on the year. That was a quick and easy one. What are scholarship and bursary opportunities like for international students? Bursary opportunities for international students are exactly the same as bursary opportunities for domestic students. You can apply for a bursary. No matter where you come from, you should definitely consider applying for a bursary. And when it comes to scholarships, we do have a few scholarships where you have to be Canadian to apply, but many of our scholarships are just open to students from anywhere. So I would just encourage you to take a look at our scholarships page. You can read descriptions of the scholarships. You can apply for more than one scholarship if you're eligible. So the short answer is, if you're an international student, the scholarship opportunities that are available for you and the bursary opportunities that are available for you are pretty much the same. And the general entrance scholarships, every student, no matter where they're from, will be assessed for those as long as they apply by March 1st. Does King's automatically assess for entrance scholarships, or is there a separate application? Great question. We automatically will assess you for an entrance scholarship as long as you apply by March 1st. And if you want to be considered for one of the major awards, yes, there is a separate application, and you can read about that on our scholarships page. We've got a question here saying, some people told me that I should take courses like film and communication technology. Is that necessary if I want to do the journalism program? The short answer is no, but I think Tim can speak more to that.
Oh, there are certainly no required courses in preparation for journalism. We just want to see the courses that Yolana has already outlined. Like a communications technology course is a good demonstration of your interest in journalism, so I think our admissions committee would look on that favorably, but we certainly wouldn't treat anyone who doesn't have that on their transcript any differently.
Great. Pardon me. So we're just flying through questions over here. Oh my, I have a tickle in my throat. We're flying through questions, which is fantastic. And we're getting to a time when we have about 6 minutes left. Oh, there's one more here, which is for you, Tim. Is there a photojournalism aspect to the journalism program?
Absolutely, there is. So in the BGH program, it's woven into the program. So students get photojournalism in second year when they take their Introduction to Visual Storytelling course. They also get a heavy dose of photojournalism in the news workshop, and we have a photo advisor who does what we call postmortems every week on the photos that have appeared on the Signal, and also postmortems on the journalism, of course, itself. We actually have a photojournalism elective that is available for students in our minor in journalism studies program. So the minor is for students who major in a Bachelor of Arts or a Bachelor of Science and take courses for a minor program of study. Our BGH students can't take that photojournalism elective because they are getting the same instruction in the BGH program.
So we did get a few little last-minute questions in, and we might not have time to answer all of them. So if you leave this event with your question unanswered, just don't forget to email us at admissions@ukings.ca. But we have one in particular here that has a lot to do with academic advising. And so I was hoping to pull in Mia, who is one of our peer advisors, to respond to it. And the question is, how easy is it to change majors?
Yeah, so it'll definitely depend a little bit like how long you are in your degree. But I would say we definitely see a lot of students get into their second year and take kind of a variety of courses and not know exactly 100% what they would like to do and still definitely graduate within a 4-year timeline. So the short answer to that is I wouldn't say it's like, snap your fingers, it's done, but it's definitely very, very possible and doable. And a lot of people change their mind or decide to go on a completely different route or follow something that they didn't intend to do. I started out thinking that I was going to do more work within Middle Eastern studies, and I ended up not doing that at all. And I'm still well on track to graduate on a 4-year timeline. So the short answer is you can definitely do it. Just come see us in the registrar's office and we'll sort it out for you.
Thanks very much, Mia. I wanted to give you a chance to weigh in with some of your expertise. And I just want to add to that Mia and our other peer advisor, Antoinette, are really great resources. Our academic advisors, Julia and Kirsten, are awesome. And all the way through your degree, we'll guide you through it. You're never going to be stuck in a situation where you have to make these decisions all by yourself about how to plan your degree or choose your courses or register. We've got your back. We'll help you out with all of those decisions. So we're almost at time, so I just want to remind you all of just a few last-minute things. Some of these I mentioned before, but I'll reiterate just in case you missed it. Just a few next steps. If you have questions, email us. If you're ready to apply and you're in grade 12, please do. You can apply now. Our online application is available now. Wait until shortly after this webinar because we'll send along an email that has that really useful waiver code that you can use to get your application fee waived and save $65, which is great. There's that survey that's also going to be in that post-event email. There's an awesome link to a video lecture that Neil and Tim put together. So lots of useful stuff there. You can follow us on our social channels if you want to know about other things that are going on at King's. And we have lots of other events coming up so soon, including our essay writing workshop, which is next week, our essay contest where you could win all of your FIP books. So a lot of really cool things coming down the pipeline. So on behalf of my colleagues who are here in the library with me right now, Mark and Paul and Josh, who are behind the camera making it all look and sound good, and our panelists, Neil and Tim, and Olivia and Mia, and myself, and huge shout out to Tara and Kaylee, who were typing in answers to all your questions. On behalf of all of us, thank you so much for being with us this evening. We hope you have a great evening, and we look forward to talking to you more in the future. Stay in touch. We're here for you.